All right, time to talk about the jumps. Preview of the 2024 U.S. Olympic trials, the long jump, the triple jump, as well as the high jump, my top 3 picks in each event. Now, these are a little more complicated than we saw in the sprints or the hurdles, as some athletes in these jumping events actually don't have the standard. They either have the standard or some people are in the world rankings or they're maybe just outside. So it's a little bit tricky, but let's dive right into it. Women's long jump, clear favorite here is Tara Davis-Woodhall. She's not only a favorite to, of course, make the Olympic team, but she's a favorite for the gold medal. She's been very consistent in the 7.1 meter range, or at least the 7 meter range. Now, she has competition talking globally about the long jump with Marquis Dendy and some other women as well, but Tara Davis-Woodhall, I think she's going to make a very, very strong statement in Eugene at these Olympic trials. She might throw something down like a 7.2, just like Mihambo did at Europeans. She could go even farther. Maybe, 7.3 is crazy in the long jump, but Tara Davis-Woodhall, her talent is through the roof, and I think she has a lot of potential. She might really show something here at the Olympic trials. Now, just behind her, it kind of gets a little bit muddy, but I am looking at Jasmine Moore. I'm going to fact check, but I think that Jasmine Moore is the only other woman who has this standard. There are some women who are in the world rankings, but Jasmine Moore, I think she's going to be, clear enough to be able to make this Olympic team. 3 years ago in 2021, Jasmine Moore made the Olympic team in the triple jump, but in the long jump, this is my first time that I'm going to pick her to make the team going to the Olympic Games. Really excited to see what Jasmine Moore does. Now, behind them two, it's a little bit tricky, but I'm going to go with Monet Nichols. I'm kind of splitting hairs here with Monet as well as Quanisha Burks. They both have been really doing pretty good for the most part this season. Again, neither of them have the standard, but I think they're both within the world rankings quota. Monet Nichols came off the silver medal at the World Indoor Champs behind Tara Davis-Woodhall, but she hasn't jumped as far outdoors yet, but I think that she's going to be able to step things up and kind of use that indoor performances that she had as motivation to really translate to making her first Olympic team. So gonna see if Monet Nichols is gonna be able to make that team. But again, I want to shout out Quanisha Burks. She's very much in that same conversation. Looking forward to seeing that women's long jump. On the men's side in the long jump, this is another tricky one, as a couple guys, there's a few guys who are in the world rankings, maybe a few guys have the standard, but looking at Marquis Dendy, Will Williams, and Jerian Lawson, there are the only 3 guys who actually have the standard from my understanding, as well as are in the world rankings. But Marquis Dendy, he's been pretty consistent all throughout the year so far. Nothing super crazy in terms of marks or performances, right? We're not seeing like some of the performances like an 8.2 or an 8.3, but Marquis Dendy has been very consistent despite, all the injury issues he suffered over the past couple of years, right? Really since coming out of Florida. But I really like Marquis Dendy to make, another Olympic team here. Then I'm looking at Jerian Lawson. Jerian Lawson is probably my number 2 pick. For the most part, he's been the most consistent behind Marquis Dendy. And man, it's tough to say with these long jumps because we've seen some other guys like, internationally really competing well, but the U.S. guys haven't hit, those high marks. Now, it's not to say I'm really looking for them to hit my high marks. I really would love it, but it makes it a little trickier to kind of pick who's going to make the team. But Marquis Dendy, Jerian Lawson, and then I am going with Will Williams. Now, Will Williams, he hasn't performed as well when we're talking about USA Championships recently or in the past, but he has actually made every single team, I think dating back to, 2022 in Eugene. I don't think he made the Olympic team in 2021 in Tokyo, but he's just been able to display consistency throughout the season that has allowed him to get into the world rankings and allowed him to compete at the World Championship. So I really like Will Williams for 3rd, but it's going to be very close. Malcolm Clemens, right? He's in the world ranking right now, but he might be, kind of teetering. I think he hasn't, jumped as far. Then you have someone like Jeremiah Davis. He's just outside the world rankings. He might be next up. So long jump is going to be a little tricky, but Marquis Dendy, Jerian Lawson, Will Williams, that's going to be my team. Whether or not, who goes to the Olympic Games is going to be tricky, but we'll see. Moving on to the triple jump, going to jump over to the women's triple jump, as this one is pretty clear cut, as you're not going to see, everyone is going to have the same top 3, maybe in a different order, but Jasmine Moore, I think she's going to take the win here ahead of Couture Orji and then ahead of Tori Franklin. These are the only 3 women who actually have the standard and or have the world rankings to be able to go to the Olympic Games. So, and unfortunately, I don't think that any other woman in the United States is going to be able to get that standard or get in the world rankings just because of, competitions and because of how far that mark is, right? 14.55 meters. It's tough. So I think these 3 are pretty safe. Again, you can kind of mix and match them depending on who's going to win, who's going to finish 2nd, 3rd, but I think Jasmine Moore is going to take this win here. Moving on to the men's triple jump, this is another case of like world rankings, of standards, all kinds of things. Now, Donald Scott, by far, let me not say by far, but I think he is the clearest. He's going to be going to the Olympic Games. He has the standard. He has the world ranking. He's there. So regardless if he wins or not, I think he's going to be able to take that win. He's going to be going to the Olympic Games. Then behind him, you have two guys who actually have the world ranking, Will Clay and Chris Bernard. Will Clay, of course, is, in my opinion, one of the greatest triple jumpers in the history of the event, right? Since 2011, when he got the bronze medal, you know, behind Christian Taylor and Philippe Zidou. Since then, he's been doubling up in the triple and the long jump, two-time Olympic medalist, right? Multiple-time world championship medalist in both events. But, of course, he's coming on to the second half of his career. But I think because he's in the world rankings, this is going to make it interesting where he could potentially make that team, even if he doesn't finish in the top 3. Chris Bernard, he's also kind of on the second half of his career, but he also has been one of the more consistent triple jumpers for the United States over the past couple years. So again, Donald Scott, Will Clay, Chris Bernard, they have the world rankings, but then you have someone like Salif Main, right? From FDU, he got the NCAA title. He's the first one out from the world rankings. One of the unfortunate things is that the NCAA championships and all these NCAA meets, they don't get you great world ranking points. So Salif Main hasn't been able to get those points to be able to get into the world rankings, but he is the first one out. So if he does well at USA's, that could put him over the edge, right? Give him those extra points, and that would get him to the Olympic Games, right? If he finishes ahead of, you know, either Donald Scott, Will Clay, or Chris Bernard. But then you have someone like Russell Robinson. He's also the next one out by the world rankings. And it gets tricky, right? Russell Robinson, he's been doing pretty decent, but it goes to the fact he hasn't been able to get those points. So this is another tricky thing. He performs well here in Eugene, then he's going to be able to go. And then I have to shout out Christian Taylor. Christian Taylor, in my opinion, he's teetering on the GOAT of the triple jump. Now, of course, you have Jonathan Edwards. Of course, you have, Victor Saniev. But Christian Taylor, as many of y'all know, I love the triple jump. Christian Taylor got me into the triple jump and got me into track and field as well. 2011 world champion, 2015, 2017, 2019, 2016 Olympic gold medalist, 2012 Olympic gold medalist. Listen, Christian Taylor, in my opinion, is one of my favorite athletes. I'll be completely biased. I'd love to see him make another Olympic team, but of course, I'd be hard pressed to really pick him for the team, just considering, his comeback from that Achilles injury hasn't been as great as we might have expected. This is, of course, going to be his last, I think, Olympic Games as well, if he, makes it. So huge shout outs to Christian Taylor. Going to be exciting to see him jump. But I'm looking at the top 3. I'm going to stick with the guys who have the rankings already. Donald Scott, Will Clay, and Chris Bernard. But I think that Salif Main might be able to make this team. So shout out to them. We're going to see what happens. Moving over to the high jumps. Let's close things out with the high jumps. On the men's side, this is all about JuVaughn Harrison and Shelby McEwen. They're the two who have been the most consistent. JuVaughn Harrison, one of the most consistent high jump, long jumpers. And I think someone could fact check me, but I think he's only focusing in on the high jump here. So that, I think, is actually a really good move because he's in contention for the gold medal, if you're really being honest. Yes, you have guys like a Barshim, you have Tambiri, you have Wu, but I think that JuVaughn Harrison is in contention for a gold. Got the silver medal last year in Budapest. Definitely keep a lookout for JuVaughn Harrison. And then, of course, you have Shelby McEwen. He got the silver medal, or I apologize, I'll put it up on the screen. He got the silver or the bronze medal at the World Indoor Championships. I apologize because I've spoken to him a couple times during the indoor season. Huge shout out to him. I think he's another one. He has a standard. He's going to be going to the World Champion or to the Olympic Games. But then you have Vernon Turner. I think that Vernon Turner also has either the standard or the world ranking. And, he's a little bit behind, from where Harrison and McEwen is, but I think that Vernon Turner is going to be that third guy to actually get on the team and go to the Olympic Games. Behind them, you have Tyus Wilson. He competed for Nebraska. He finished second place at NCAA's. I think Romaine Beckford from Jamaica got the win at NCAA, so not with the USA part there. But the problem with Wilson is that he's not even in the world rankings, so he doesn't have enough points. So he would have to beat out someone like a Vernon Turner to be able to get to the Olympic Games, on the qualification, or he'd have to jump 2.33 meters. So it's so tricky. As you can see, the story of the jumps is that the United States, despite how dominant we may seem on the surface, is we don't have that solid top 3 who has the ranking, and you could go down to, the 8th place, and, whoever makes it in top 3 is going to go. Not that easy. So let me close out with probably one of the biggest ones is Vashti Cunningham in the women's high jump. I mean, I said her name before I said high jump because she's going to be going to the Olympic Games. She's been the clear favorite and the clear leader for the United States since, coming out of high school. I think while she was in high school, she won the gold medal at the 2016 World Indoor Championships. Vashti has been a mainstay here. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing what she's able to do in Eugene. I would love for Vashti to really have a kind of a breakout and hopefully get to that American record of, I think, 2.05 meters by Shantae Lowe from, way back 2010, I think it was. But Vashti Cunningham, really looking forward to seeing her, get the win here and go into the Olympic Games. Behind her, this is where it gets tricky, but I think the only other woman who actually has a standard is Rachel Glenn. So Rachel Glenn, coming from the NCAA, she didn't do well in the high jump or in the 400-meter hurdles at NCAA's. She got 3rd place in the 400 hurdles. But She is within the world rankings quota and actually has the standard in the high jump. No other women in the high jump have that standard. So it's going to be tricky. The only problem with Rachel Glenn is that I think she's at least declared to double in both the 400 hurdles and the high jump. Not sure of the schedule. I need to cross-check it, but that could be very tricky. That maybe hindered her a little bit when talking about, NCAAs, where she had the high jump and the 400 hurdles at the same time. But I don't know. Rachel Glenn, Vashti Cunningham, those are my top two. And then I don't think anyone else is going to be able to get that, standard or get the quota. But huge shout outs to all the jumpers. I was never going to forget about y'all. Love the jumps. And that was all my previews for the U.S. Olympic trials. If you didn't check it out, go check out my previews for the 100, both the men's and the women's. Go check out my previews for the women's 200. I already did a world preview for the men's 200, so you can check that out. And then, of course, I did the 400s as well as all the hurdles. 400 hurdles, 100 hurdles, 110-meter hurdles. Be sure to check it all out. Be sure to subscribe to Citius Mag. I'm going to be all on Citius Mag throughout the entire, 10, 11 days at, Olympic trials in Eugene. I appreciate y'all. Let me know your top 3 picks in all the jumps that we just spoke about: long jump, triple jump, and high jump, and any other events that I didn't talk about. Yes, y'all know, didn't speak about the distances, didn't speak about the throws, but let me know what you think. Always appreciate y'all. Thanks for watching.